Like she always says,
Good morning. I'd like to thank everybody who showed up to celebrate my dad's life. My family thanks you all for all the prayers that you offered to us. Lorenzo Sanchez was born on November 1st, 1957 in San Bernardino, California. He never graduated from high school, but later received his GED and entered the criminal justice program at Western Oklahoma State College in 2001. Lorenzo entered the United States Army on September 23, 1981, and was medically discharged on December 30, 1988, as a specialist. He worked in law enforcement while in the military and continued as a prison guard for many years before retiring. He then spent most of the days being a handyman and lending help to anyone who needed it. He married Michelle Harnden on May 12, 2001 in Vernon, Texas. Lorenzo was of the Christian faith. He enjoyed cars, music, bowling, and spending time with family and friends. But what's not on there is that he liked picking on people a lot. Lorenzo was preceded in death by his wife, Michelle Sanchez. He is survived by his daughter, Kayla Williamson, and husband, Kyle, 4 sons, Jeremy Sanchez, Joshua Sanchez, and wife, Leslie, Nathaniel Sanchez, and wife, Amy, and Jory Sanchez, and wife, Coral, 1 sister, whom he just found, Dolores Ramirez, and 11 grandchildren, Liliana Sanchez, Jeremy Sanchez Jr., Michaela Sanchez, Cooper Williamson, Elijah Sanchez, Aiden Sanchez, Katie Back, Joseph Back, Jacob Back, and Drake Hernandez, and many other relatives and friends. I'm going to read something from Kyle, because he can't hobble up here himself. The first time I met Chez, I was working at our local motorcycle shop. He needed help finding a part that no one else would help him find. I didn't have a clue that helping this wild-haired, grump old man would change my life because of the dark-haired pretty girl standing behind him. A few months into dating Kayla, I was needing to go on a trip to get a car, and Chez went with me. During the trip, he told me he gave me permission to marry Kayla. We hadn't been dating very long, y'all. I don't know this man. At the moment, I thought, this old man is crazy. I will miss all of our conversations sitting around talking about hot rods and the road trips we went on. I'm going to miss you, Chez. So, I'm going to kind of read something that I wrote. Pop, you were the light of my life for so long, before all the other lights started to appear. If it were possible, I wish you could have viewed yourself through my eyes, and then maybe you could understand how special you truly were to me. You were the first man I ever loved. You were my first hero, the first man I ever wanted to make proud. I have always been proud of the man you were to us growing up, because you were our provider and our protector. You were someone I could call and talk to without judgment, even if you didn't agree with me. We had fights, and I mean, we had fights. But that's what families do. You were the one who taught me to be fearless and to stand up for myself and my loved ones. You're the one I always looked to for protection. You touched so many lives of the kids I grew up with that many of them looked to you as a father figure. You weren't a perfect man, but there's no one that is. You were a man who always put his family first, and no matter how much you would fight with each of us kids, you would always find your way back to us. We all got our stubbornness and hard-headedness from you because, well, nobody wants to be wrong. There isn't enough time in the world for me to write everything I could say to you. I will love you from the moment I came into the world and from the moment I'll leave. I'll always think of you in every moment and know that you are here with me even if I can't see you anymore. I knew you were missing Michelle, and I wish you would have just told us all how much, and that you were sick and hurting. But that's where your pride came into play. I would have moved mountains to help ease your hurt, to do what I could to help you, but you wouldn't let us. I'm sorry for the way it ended, and I'm sorry for not being there with you to tell you goodbye and for you to feel my love as you left the world. I'll never forgive myself for that. I wish you could have finally met your baby sister. She looks just like you. You waited over 60 years for her, but I thank God you found each other and would finally be able to talk. And I promise to share as many memories I have of you with her so she can see who you were through my eyes. I'll let this be the end, or I could go on, but I hope you know how much we love you and how much your Cooper man misses you. Watch over us with Mama Michelle, and I hope you two are celebrating together up there. I love you always and forever, Papa Bear, from your baby girl.
Now you see not the grass is green
I would like to thank everyone that came out, that has showed up today and has reached out to the family. I'd like to start off with the scripture. My dad, like we said, he was a Christian faith. He would quote some scriptures to me, but one that he quoted to me all the time, and it has stuck with me since I was a kid. Psalms 23:4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear for no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod, thy staff, thy comfort me. He would tell me that, like he said, for never to be afraid, be willing to put yourself out there. And if you look at that, if you have faith, whatever religion, whatever your beliefs are, if you have faith in something, you're willing to go out and do anything you want. You only put you put brakes on yourself when you decide you want to stop. And that happens. Okay. When I was younger, I'm the oldest, so yes, I'm old. As a protector, I still want to do this, to protect my family and keep them safe. Because when my dad wasn't home, he says, you're the man in the house. You protect your family, you protect your loved ones. You stand up for them no matter what. That song, So, that you heard, I fell in love with war and that type of music, saxophone. Because of him, that type of music. He loved war and Kool and the Gang, Earth, Wind and Fire. So we love music. He loves music. He would listen to today's rap. He might listen to a couple of Christian songs, some country, but he wouldn't let you believe that he listened to it. All of us Sanchez kids, we have love for music. We get from him. We get all, like my sister said, we all get our stubbornness from him. And I'm the worst because I was the oldest. Well, the baby's the youngest, but I'm the worst with my stubbornness with him because I was the oldest. So me being the big brother wanting to protect. My confidence I got from him. He, like my sister said, he wasn't always the best man, but he was fair when he felt like it was right. And he told me, hey, he would tell me, I remember him seeing him in his uniform when he was in the military, talking about how good he looked. My sister does the same thing. If you know Joshua, he'll tell you he's the sexiest beast, so I'm just me, you know. Me and my sister, if you look at, we got most of our looks from him, but we all got everything else from him too. So as we were talking, my father was put up for adoption when he was a kid. Growing up, he always told me he knew he had a sister and probably some brothers, but he didn't know anything else. Well, I knew my mom's side of the family, but we never knew nothing on my dad's side. So what do? Do my DNA. And then just recently, in August, I get a message saying I have a DNA match, that it's my aunt or my half-sister. So I was like, if if he's 2, 2.5, 3 years old somewhere, that's some potent stuff, you know. So I called her that night, and I talked to her, then I talked to him, and I sent him the info, and they started talking. But since he was in the foster home, he was never adopted. So many children growing up, some that wanted to be here, but they have lives themselves. They live different states away. He would accept any child and call them their adopted child, his adopted son, his adopted daughter. Several of them here, there's a couple here that they grew up with us. They spent time with us. So I guess you could say sometimes my dad and them were the cool ones because everyone wanted to be at our house. Well, I had kids. I have a daughter. Biologically, she's not mine, but when her mother was pregnant. But because family is everything, and blood does not have to be family. It's who you make it as your family. And that's the one thing that my dad's taught us. Family is everything, but you make your family, since he never had a family. So he gets to talk to his sister, have some conversations. Before this time, I got to talk to him. The last time I got to speak to him, he was all excited. It was a couple days before the first. He was so excited. He asked me, he said, after my birthday, I want to go to Arizona, meet my sister. He's like, I'm ready for this. On the first, I want to get my DNA test so I can see where my other family's at. So he was so excited. And he came over. I was hurting that day because my pain stimulator went out. And I was talking to him, and we were listening to So. And he was talking about, how much he liked that song. And he would tell me every time that he heard that song, he would think about me. Because me and him bumped head so much. Me and him got fist fights. Because I'm hard-headed just like him. I get it just like him. I tattooed my dad as something that we did together. My daughter, a Pooh, you know who Boo is from Monsters, Inc., if any of you have children or if you ever seen it yourself. I tattooed a piglet picking up M&Ms for my youngest. I call her M&Ms because her name's Michaela May. And he got a sleeping dragon for Junior because Junior always slept. I worked with my dad in different jobs. Not very many people get to work with their dads. I got to work with him doing security, but I also got to work with him at McDonald's and then at a juvenile prison where we would have some crazy nights and everybody would say, hey, that's Sanchez's son right there. Yeah? Or they would tell him, Sanchez is your boy? Because you treat others like you want to be treated, as my dad always told me. So I had moved away in 2012, came back. We joined. I started bowling again. Then I convinced him to bowl. And then we started bowling, and he enjoyed it. And then we had got our family, bowling family, that he loved. He bowled all the way up until August, all the way up, even talked to his sister before then. Before we finished our last day of bowling, I would love to have one more of those days. My dad, he's been called many names. I call him Pops, Papa. Growing up, I heard his name, Larry. Now, if you guys know me, he hated that name. I do not know. In a yearbook, it says his name's Larry Sanchez, but Lorenzo. So he did not like that name. So over the years, I would call him by that name because I told him he was getting deaf because I would say Pops, Pop, Papa, Ches, Lorenzo, Larry. Don't call me that. I'm going to beat your butt. Okay. But that's something that Josh would do, just like me, because we're the oldest, you know. And we'd give him a hard time about that. So, with everything that's happened, you know, I found him, and I'm glad that he's no longer suffering. He was talking about always hurting, how bad his back, his hips. I think there was other underlying things that was going on with him that his stubbornness would not let us. His stubbornness, he would always want his way. And as a grown man, he would still try to tell me how to live my life. And I'd tell him no. Just like when he got sick and we had to tell him, you're going to do what we say. He didn't like that. He kind of shut us out, especially me. He never wanted me to go do anything because I wasn't very nice waking him up. I had to talk to him like a kid. But you know what? He told me he respected me because that was how he wanted us to talk to him. Because if we talked to him like that, he felt like we're on the same level as him, I felt. And I never liked doing that, but because of his health, with things that have gone on, we've met our family. My aunt came down, we met our family. Even though this is a sad time, but this is a good time, a happy time, because we might have lost our father, we gained his sister. And we're going to continue to love them and be open and be there for them. And as I finish this up, I just want to thank everybody again. And we miss you, Pop. We'll see you again. And when I get up there, you'll be ready to have your butt whooped. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in all of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever, forever worship you. I can only imagine.
All right. Good morning. Again, like Kayla and Jeremy, I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you for taking time out of your days for those of you that are at work and actually took time to come here. It means a lot to us, and you know, it's nice to see that people are here because, if anything, my dad was definitely loved. So I actually wrote a really long speech that I'm not going to read today because as I was writing it and I was thinking of the things that I wanted to say, we would be here for hours. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about who my dad was to me and who he was as a person and kind of what he meant to me. So I had a really strong connection with my dad, and I think it stems from like my military background. You know, me and him served in the military. But one of the things that always sticks out to me is the day I told him that I wanted to join the military. He was kind of excited, and he was kind of cautious at the same time. And it kind of stemmed from the way he was treated in the military, my brother Josh, how he was treated in the military. And I told him, I'm trying to go in the Air Force. And for those of you in here that have served in the Air Force, worked for the Air Force, had any interaction, he was like, that's the biggest mistake you're ever going to make. So I was like, all right, well, what do you think about me joining the Army? He was like, okay, the Army's the biggest mistake you could ever make. You're right, join the Air Force. So me and him started the process of me joining the Air Force, but the Air Force recruiter was trying to get me to go in one specific job, and he was like, you're going to wait 18 months to go to basic training. And my dad was like, well, you're not working, you're not going to school, you need to do something with your life. I know all of us can attest to that. At some point in our lives, he told us, you need to do something with your life. So as we were leaving the recruiter's office over in the lot in Central Mall, I happened to see the Marine recruiter sitting in the office. And I walk in, I told my dad, I was like, well, what do you think about me joining the Marines? He was like, son, if I have one thing to say, and that would be joining the Marines would probably be one of the proudest things that I could ever do. And the reason for that is because his time serving in the Army, he used to always tell me, those Marine uniforms look damn good. So I went into the recruiter's office with him with me. I went into the recruiter and I said, hey, I want to join the Marines. How soon can you send me? He was like, I can send you to boot camp tomorrow. First, my dad was like, no, we're not doing that. You're going to stay around. We're going to make a plan. We're going to figure this out. Long story short on that aspect, I joined the Marines. Within 6 days, I was in boot camp. When I graduated boot camp, my family wasn't able to come. For those of you that knew my stepmother, Michelle, she was very sick. So it broke my dad's heart that he was not able to come see me graduate boot camp. I was in California. But when I came home after my MOS school, which is my job school, and I told him I was going to, I was getting stationed in Japan. First time I ever really saw my dad cry was the day that I had to leave to go to Japan. It broke his heart. It didn't break his heart for the fact that I was going, because he knew that that was my military duty, was to go where the military sent me. It broke his heart because at the one time he wanted to be there for me, he was actually sick. So he wasn't able to take me to the airport, and it was a 2-year tour. He felt that he wasn't going to get to see me again. One of the things that I haven't told anybody from my military service that I just recently told my dad, and I think it brought me and him a little bit closer, was in 2011 I actually deployed to Afghanistan. Again, like this is the first time I'm telling anybody. It's not on my service record because I wasn't there long enough to get brought into the system. But a lot of the things my dad experienced in his military career, experienced in his life being in the foster system, I got to see a lot of that. And I felt that I needed to tell him because it was something that weighed very heavily on me. And at 33 years old, I'm a 100% disabled veteran, which you don't really see in 33-year-old men being completely, totally disabled. But I felt with his military background and his mental issues, that was something that weighed heavily on me. No matter how many times I talked to doctors, no matter how many times I talked to my family, I felt talking to somebody who's lived it and done it, you know, it was important to me. So I finally got the nerve to tell him kind of my situation and what I did in the military. Still things that I refuse to talk about today. But he didn't need the words. All he had to hear was the I deployed, and he understood. And he was like, you don't need to say anything more. Some of you knew that earlier this year, my dad's health took a turn for the worst. In February of this year, my dad was actually living with me because his health had just gotten so bad. And it's kind of, I kind of feel bad because while he was with us, he was so stubborn. Common trend, right? Lorenzo Sanchez, stubborn? Not at all. But it kind of stemmed from Jeremy took him to the hospital and he was like, I'm fine, you know, leave me alone. And me being who I am, me being Lorenzo's son, I like to think that I'm the closest to him in personality. I was like, you know what? If you're so confident and you're so set that this is it for you, this is what we're going to do. You're going to go get me some legal binding documents that say that I am not allowed to care for you. Until then, I was like, get in my car. You're coming to my house to stay. He stayed with us for 2.5 months. Then he got better, and he went home. And for all his health issues and him being a diabetic, he being stubborn, he didn't listen to any of us. You know, you would always see him with a giant Pepsi with him at all times, several of them. You would always see him, he would always go to the donut shop. He would ask every single day, he would ask my wife, do the boys want some donuts? I got donut holes. He would bring him like 6 of them. I'm like, how many did you get? I got a bag full. Where are the rest of them? The cat ate them. It was always the cat. You know, you always hear, you know, the dog ate it. His was always the cat's. But he would always do that. So this is one of my biggest regrets. I used to always tell him, I told him, Pop, with the way you're going now, you're going to be lucky to see 65. And as you all can see, he was 64 years old. And another big regret is he used to always tell us, every single one of us, he was like, I'm going to die alone, and you guys aren't going to know. And that is how he passed away. We found him, and we all feel that we could, like, what could we have done better? But it comes down to, like, none of us knew how sick he was. I saw my father for the last time 2 weeks ago leaving the bowling alley. Perfect health. He came up to me because I said, what are you doing here? He's like, I come to get some chicken tenders. They make the best chicken tenders in town, so good job, Town and Country. So he was like, I come to get me some chicken tenders because they make the best. You know how I love them. I'm like, yep. And then we talked briefly for a minute, and he asked, do the boys need anything for football? When is their first game? And he had told me, I plan to be at Aiden's first game. So my dad loved football. And when he found out my boys were playing, he was super excited. And I played football when I was young, and he never came to any of my games again because my stepmother was always sick. And he had told me, he was like, I promise you, I will be there for those boys. For those of you that didn't know, these little boys, these 3 little boys you see running around here, he had a special relationship with them. He loved the older ones. He did, absolutely 100%. But with these little ones, it was just special. For those of you that would see him around at the bowling alley, they were his little gremlins. They were his little gremlins. I would tell them no all the time. Hey, you can't have this. You know, Daddy, can I have a brownie? Sam just made new fresh brownies. Can I have a brownie? No. What would I see? I would see Pop up there buying 2 brownies. One for him. Oh, I happen to get an extra one. Here you go, boys. Never failed. Always. My dad was a giver. You know, he would give his last dime to help somebody in need. He would do anything. And he didn't expect anything in return. You know, he would prefer that you extend a hand to help him the next time he needed help, or he always worked in the barter system. You give me something, I'll do something for you. You know, he preferred it that way, and that's just who he was, and that's the way us as his kids we were raised. Me, I'm very big, and I have a hard time saying no to my family. They come to me, I'm usually yes. But whereas I defer from my dad is, I'm like, you need money, when am I getting it back? Whereas he was like, don't worry about it. I'm like, I just gave you $500, yes, I want that back. And he's just like, come cut my grass. That's the expensive lawnmower business or grass cut right there. But that's just who he was. He liked to help people. You know, that's what he thrived on. And I used to tell him, I would be like, Pop, you're getting up there in age. You need to sit down and relax. And his response was always like, if I stop, I'm going to die. And I believe 100% that that's what happened. He stopped being active. He succumbed to his illnesses and his injuries. And that's, we didn't know. You know, we've been asked, the family has been asked, like, what happened? We just don't know. You know, because he just wouldn't let us know. And I understand that a burden as a parent, that you don't want your kids taking care of you. You know, as a parent, your responsibility is to ensure your kids are taken care of, ensure they're happy. And as a parent, you don't want your kids to worry about you. You don't want your kids to hurt. But, you know, if we would have known, could we have prevented what happened? Possibly. But then again, at the same time, maybe not. It could have been inevitable. He could have been terminal. But at least if we would have known, we would have been there with him. Because I come back to, last time I had a conversation with my father was 2 weeks ago. If I would have known that was the last time I would have spoke to him, I would have told him how proud of him I was. He may not have been the best father growing up. You know, it was struggle. It was a struggle. He was a single father of 5 kids for the longest time. And then my stepmom came in the picture. And he worked his tail off. Like, one of the things I always remember is he was always working. He did everything he could for us. You know, I would have told him how much my kids loved him. I would have ensured he knew he was loved. I would have ensured that he knew we cared. Me and my dad had a fight. I never got to tell him I was sorry. So those are things that weigh heavy on me daily. It wasn't uncommon for me to go a couple weeks without hearing from him or talking to him. If I would have known 2 weeks ago that would have been the last time, I would have seen him daily. But it kind of comes back to the beginning of my story when I told him I deployed. He knew. He always knew. You know, he was just stubborn. He knew he was loved. You know, the fact that there's people in here today shows he was loved. But it would have been nice to have been able to say goodbye. And to me, I say goodbye, I feel he's like in a better place. I'm a person of absolute. Just a little background, I don't believe in God, so I don't believe in heaven, I don't believe in hell, so I'm a person of absolute. I don't take away from anybody's beliefs. So, but one of the things I do believe in 100%, he is alive. He is alive in our memories that we're presenting today. He is alive in our hearts, he is alive in our minds. I tell my kids that are up here with me every single day, that he is with you. He will always be there as long as you remember him. So today, we chose a celebration of life as his service, so that way we could remember him as who he was. And who he was he was a helper, he was a giver, he was a provider, he was a lover. He loved music, he loved cars. He loved women. He loved his grandchildren. You know, he had a very special relationship with my little one up here. We like to say in the family that the reason him and Aiden got along so well and the reason why they were so close is because this is Lorenzo incarnate. This is him. Hard to believe, I look at him with his green eyes and blonde hair and I see my dad. You wouldn't think that with dark hair and dark eyes, but every day I look at him and I see him. When we found out that my wife was pregnant with Aiden, and we told him he's due November 12th, you don't know how many times I would hear, maybe he'll be born November 1st. November 1st. And I was like, it's not going to happen. The day that my wife went into labor, he was like, November 1st. We got close. Aiden's birthday is October 29th, so we got pretty close. So he had a special relationship with him. My dad was the first person I called as soon as we found out we were pregnant. I was like a little kid in a candy store. I was screaming, I was shouting. I was so excited to be a dad. For those of you that have your pamphlets, I want you to look at Lorenzo's name, Lorenzo Ephraim Sanchez. He's the only one that we had named after him. His name is Elijah Ephraim Sanchez. The day I told my dad we are taking your name and we are giving him your name was another one of the proudest moments my dad ever had. And I think that was the day my dad accepted, where words do not describe your love for me. And again, like I said, I cannot go on and on and on about what he meant to me, because he knew. If you guys saw him, you guys knew him, he knew. He knew he was loved. He knew everybody here liked him. So I'm going to close it out at this time. My children my oldest wants to speak. My little one wrote a letter to him. I'm going to read the letter. I'm going to let my oldest speak, and then after that, we're going to open it up for if anybody else wants to speak. Take your time. If you say what you want, there's no time limit. But at this time, I'm going to read my letter. Aiden, give me your letter. Do you have your letter?
Yep.
No, Aiden's letter.
I don't think so.
All right, so my son is 5, so he didn't actually write this. He just told my wife what he wanted to say. He wanted to say this himself, but he's sad, he's nervous, he's scared. So, dear Pappy, I want to let you know that I miss you. You are the best Pappy ever. I'm going to miss that special ringtone you had for me. I love you, and again, you are the best Pappy ever. Love, your Titan. So his name's Titan because of his initials are AE, and my dad was very big on giving nicknames. And if you've never seen the movie, cartoon movie with Drew Barrymore, Titan AE, that's why he was nicknamed Titan. So at this time, you want to speak or do you want me to read it?
I want to speak.
All right, hold on.
Nope.
Nope, hold on.
Good morning, everyone. I am here to read my note that this is for my grandfather. Pappy, I love you. You are the best Pappy ever. I am going to miss you. I hope you are watching me play football. I love the nickname Buddha.
Is that all you got? Do you want to say anything else?
No,
Is that it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Your turn.
Do you want to say anything?
I'm happy y'all are here for Pappy.
All right, at this time, if anybody else wants to come up, just come up and say what you need, and then once we're done talking, we'll continue with the service.
Sailing down behind the sun, waiting for the prince to come, praying for the healing rain to restore my soul again. Just a toe rag on the run. How did I get here? What have I done? When will my hopes arise? How will I know it when I look in my father's eyes? My father's eyes. When I look in my father's eyes. My father's eyes. Then the light begins to shine, and I hear those ancient lullabies. And as I watch the seedling grow, feel my heart start to overflow. Where do I find the words to say? How do I teach him? What do we play? Bit by bit, I realized that's when I need them. That's when I need my father's eyes. My father's eyes. That's when I need my
We're going to have a prayer. Please close your eyes. God, thank you for the time we had with Grandpa. Please be with my family and comfort them. Amen.
Okay, at this time, we're just going to close up. If y'all want to stay and visit with us, that's just what we're going to be doing. Thanks again. They're going to present the flag to the family.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able, please rise for the playing of the task. and people